And we are live. Welcome to Travel Insights, powered by the leading travel and tourism daily news portal, traveldailynews.com International Edition, that is celebrating its 24-year anniversary. And we have a special episode for you today. I'm Chris Escodra, and in this interview series, weekly, I have the chance to interview inspiring thought leaders from the travel, tourism, aviation, and hospitality industries that are willing to share their insights and expertise with me and with you out there, tuning in and listening from wherever you're watching us from, whether it's YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. Thank you for taking the time to tune in and listen to Travel Insights. Today, I have the great pleasure to welcome Mr. Bashar Wali here in the studio. Welcome, Bashar.
Thank you. Good morning, good evening, to wherever you are.
Good morning to you. It's very early there where you're currently based at, right?
I am on the Pacific Coast, and it's 6:30 in the morning. So yes, not an early riser usually, but I'm happy to be here and happy to be up and ready for you.
Thank you for taking the time, and that shows a lot and speaks volumes about you as a person and as a professional who is willing to share your expertise and insights. So, uh, great to have you, and a great honor. You are the founder of Asar. For those who don't know you, I don't know if there's anybody in the industry who doesn't know you.
You're very
Uh,
kind.
you are the founder and CEO of this assembly and practice hospitality. You have more than 30 years of experience in the hospitality industry. You're at the intersection between being a philosopher and being a hotelier. You're a very inspiring person to talk to. That's why you often you are invited to give talks. You do a lot of public speaking. You're very passionate about hospitality. Is that right?
I tell people hospitality flows through my veins, and one of my favorite quotes is the meaning of life is discovering your gift, and the purpose of life is giving it away. And I feel that what I do for hospitality truly is out of love. I
Mhm.
don't get paid to speak. I refuse to get paid to speak, actually, because the minute someone pays you to speak, you sort of have to speak what they want you to speak as opposed to just speaking your mind. And to your earlier comment, I just love those industry so much. And my goal is to try to, make a tiny bit of difference in it, changing the narrative a little bit and causing people to think about it differently, hopefully.
Great. And hopefully, we will add to your legacy and to make some contribution as well with today's episode, where you get a chance to share your insights unfiltered. So, we want the raw Bashar Wali and his insights. Um, you said that hospitality runs through your veins, and although many of us are familiar with your work and your public face, I would like to go briefly a little bit back in time and find out what shaped you. What's running through your veins, and what is the contribution of your upbringing, your family, especially in terms of hospitality and creating experiences? Have you been traveling a lot with your family? Where does this all come from? Is there a connection? Because we are products of our childhood, aren't
Sure.
we?
Sure. So, really good question. And I often say when people ask me why I got into this industry, there's one quote that resonates with me that essentially speaks to why I'm in this business and why I love it so much. So, I grew up in the Middle East, grew up in the Damascus, Syria, and there's a quote in the Middle East that goes something as follows: when a stranger shows up at your door, feed him for 3 days before you ask him who he is, where he's from, and where he's going to, because by then he'll either have the strength to answer or you'll be such good friends it won't matter. And if you truly and deeply think about that sort of concept of hospitality, at its very core, it's this idea of welcoming someone into your home and making them feel like they're at home. And I sort of jokingly say, tell someone, here's that quote, congratulations, there's your master's degree in hospitality. Because once you understand that very simple concept of hospitality, you really are there. The rest is just window dressing. It's ornaments on the tree. It's all about making someone feel a certain way. Sure, you have to do a lot of things for them along the way, But fundamentally, if you don't understand this idea of feeling more important than things, then I think you really have failed. Because
Mhm.
hospitality is not things, it's feelings.
Hmm. And I didn't mention in the beginning, but today's topic with you is longing for belonging. What shapes the hotels of tomorrow? And this sense of belonging and longing for it. Perhaps it comes from there. What you just described. So I would like to tell a little bit more about this phrase that you coined, longing for belonging. Um, how did you come up with this? What does it entail? What is found at its core? What is its essence?
First of all, it's trademarked, by the way, so don't think about stealing it. I'll come
All
after you.
right.
So,
Great.
the idea behind it is really simple. So, if you sort of forget about religion and construct of society and all that stuff, and kind of go back to a Darwinian evolutionary sense, we humans had to be together to survive. I couldn't run off into the forest on my own because I would be eaten by a saber-toothed tiger or something. So, it is innate to us humans to want to belong to a larger group than we are. So fundamentally for me, the way I think about this idea of longing for belonging, people talk about our industry being the service industry. And I hate that term and I call foul on it because sure we deliver service, right? We provide you a room to sleep in, we provide you a shower, we provide you a restaurant. So we provide you a lot of those basics. But I go to get my car fixed and the mechanic provides me a service. I go to my dentist and the dentist provides me a service. So we there's a lot of service providers out there, and certainly hotels provide a service. But hotels at their core are in the hospitality industry. And the clear distinction between service and hospitality to me is this idea that service is something you deliver. And in fact, robots can deliver service now. I'm in New York City staying in a hotel and I order an extra towel and a little R2D2 robot looking thing comes to my room and delivers me a towel. Good enough. I got what I wanted. I got the service that I want. Hospitality is how you make people feel. And until we are able to teach robots emotional intelligence and emotions at large, they're not going to be able to engage in the art of humanity with other people and
Hmm.
thus create feelings in them. So, this idea of longing for belonging is somewhat scientific and comes from, if you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of need,
Hmm.
the pyramid that talks about human needs, where at the bottom there's shelter and food and
The
oxygen
basic human needs
and the basic human needs to allow you to survive.
to
And those
survive.
are
Yes.
service in our industry, right? You need a room, you need a bed, you need
You need
towels,
a shelter, a roof on top of your head,
Exactly,
food,
exactly.
and
Food, sustenance. But at the very top of that pyramid is this idea of self actualization and transcendence. And I think those come from someone believing that they matter individually and that they are part of something bigger than they are. So, again, at a hotel, I'm not trying to be your other family. I'm not trying to be anything more than we are. But if I make you feel a certain way, you now feel that you belong. Because hotels, think about it. They are shelter. They're your home away from home. And while you're in this strange city that you don't know, that you're unfamiliar with, you need a place that makes you feel at home. So if I manage to invoke that feeling in you, and by the way, that's not limited to quality. Like I don't have to be a 5-star hotel to make you feel that way. I literally could be a 2-star hotel. Because remember, fundamentally, you have to provide me those basics we talked about. But
Mhm.
ultimately, if you're able to make me feel a certain way and make me feel that I now belong, and again, it gets nebulous when you talk about these things, but making me feel like I belong, I think is very simply described as making me feel that I personally, individually matter, that I'm
Matter,
not just
right?
another guest, I'm not just a statistic.
You spoke about the experience, and I believe you're familiar with Pine and Gilmore's experience
Mhm.
economy. What makes memorable hotel experiences, and are those connected to today's topic, to shaping the hotels of tomorrow? And since you talked about the diversity in hotels and 5 stars and two and different establishments, how hotels can stand out and not be drowned in the sea of sameness or in their at their level. So
Mhm.
so experiences. memorability, the sense of belonging, the hotels of tomorrow, how are those connected? So how hotels and those listeners out there checking us out at the moment who are in the industry would get some ideas and inspiration to make their own place stand out and offer those unique experiences at
Great
whatever
point.
level they're at.
Sure. Great point and great question. So I'll sort of describe it through my lens and my experience. So
Hmm.
one of my claims to fame as a traveler is that I am the most neurotic hotel guy you'll ever meet. I travel often and globally, and my claim to fame is I never stay in any hotel more than once or one night. So if I'm in New York 3 nights, I move 3 times, never the same hotel twice. And in many cities I've run out of hotels. I've literally stayed in all of them. And when I say all of them, I don't need to go stay at a Sheraton because I've seen it, been there, done that. I'm talking about anything in sort of the lifestyle space, brand or independent, it doesn't matter. And I will stay at a 6-star hotel and I will stay at a hostel and share a room with someone just to truly get the experience.
May I ask before you continue? I hate to
Sure.
interrupt you, but I
No,
had
not
this
at all.
question. I had this question before because I watched your previous talks and TED talks and so on. You have said that before, and as you said,
Mhm.
you're notorious and infamous about
Mhm.
not staying at one hotel more than one night, and it ties with my previous questions about memorable experiences. So, is it your ADD nature or innate curiosity to experience more in life? And how does this explain memorability and connection to loyalty? What if the hotel that you stayed for one night made such great efforts to create those memorable experience and that sense of belonging? Would you still go out and go to the next place? I've always had this
Fantastic.
question, so I think now that you
Fantastic
mention
question.
it.
I'm there. Fantastic question. So, back to the hotel count, and I'll tie it back together for you here in a second. So, in many cities I've run out, in New York City, which is hard to run out in, the center of the universe, I've sort of kept track and number of hotels. And a couple of weeks ago, I've stayed at my 230th hotel in Manhattan. 230. And I'm pretty confident that if I cared enough to prove it, that I hold the world record. Not for the most traveled person. Lots of people travel more than me, but I don't think anyone is neurotic enough to move hotels every night. And through that experience, 230 hotels, and let's just sort of stay with Manhattan for a minute. Through that experience of 230 hotels, people often say, well, what do you remember? Like, what stands out? Tell me your favorite. What do you remember about these hotels? And it's an interesting question because, like I said, I will stay at the Baccarat, one of the really nice hotels in New York City, and pay whatever, pick a number. And I say, you know what? I remember it being nice. I remember, I'm sure they had fabulous flooring material and incredible art and really nice amenities, and. But at the end of the day, I can't tell you what kind of flooring material they had, whether it's marble or tile or whatever it was. And similarly across the spectrum, I don't really remember any of it because fundamentally and at the end of the day, it truly doesn't matter. When I stay in a luxury hotel, clearly there are certain expectations. Of course, I expect them to have high-end flooring materials and high-end amenities and those to me are table stakes. So generally, the answer I give to that question is I only remember when someone goes out of their way and genuinely gives a shit. The bar is so low because ultimately, again, I don't remember really most of the things I don't remember. There's usually nifty little things that they might do that might stand out, but ultimately, I remember an interaction with a human, something that someone has done for me. So the question is really interesting about loyalty. And
Mhm.
by the way, people talk about how do you rank hotels, and over time, I've sort of thought of lots of funky creative ways to rate hotels. But your point is an astute one because at the end of the day, having done all of this, say, listen, there's only two kinds of hotels: memorable and forgettable. And if you take that concept and apply it to anything in life, a restaurant meal, a conversation with a friend, a conversation with a stranger, anything you do, if it's memorable, and by the way, memorable could be horrible news because it was so bad it's memorable, but
Mhm.
generally speaking, memorable is a positive experience. So
Mhm.
in my opinion, the way you get to memorable is through pushing that transcendence, self actualization button, which you do by caring about me, not making me a statistic, and by engaging with me as a human. Because I'll remember Krissa, who knew that I liked something specific and talked about it or provided it for me or asked me if I wanted it, rather than getting a generic amenity in the room. Like I use
My
this
question
example
is,
a
they
lot.
only have 24 hours to impress you, though.
Well, listen, it takes 22 seconds, literally. That's all it takes. I'll give you an
All right.
example from the airline world.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
show up at Delta Airlines. I'm a loyal customer of Delta Airlines. I'm at the gates. I look at the screen and it has my name on the upgrade list and it says number one and I get upgraded. Well, that's fantastic. Great. I don't get excited. Sure, of course, I want the upgrade. Don't get me wrong. But the upgrade to me is a mathematical formula. A computer system said record number 12345 travels this much, and if someone travels this much based on this formula, they should get an upgrade more than this person or that person. Fantastic. Happy with it. I get the upgrade. That doesn't give me self actualization. What gives me self actualization is when I sit in the airplane and the pilot writes a handwritten note that says, "Dear Mr. Wali, thank you for being a loyal customer. You are the reason we stay in business. I am king of the world. I've arrived." So you think about how much time it took that pilot to write that note. And by the way, even though that note was written based on a printout that the computer generated that said this is a top customer, he still took his time personally to write that note. So that's really the distinction, that you don't need a long time to establish loyalty. It's a moment in time. And any person who tells you, I don't want to be anybody, I want to be in the background, I don't want to be in the spotlight, lies. Now, some people are timid, they don't want to be in the spotlight, but they want to be in the spotlight. No one says I don't want to be anybody, because everyone wants to feel that they matter. And you hear this a lot, by the way, from people who work for big companies or small companies. Krista, who works for a company that has 100,000 employees, says, I'm just a statistic. I'm employee number 782. They don't really know me. It's too big a company. But when she works for a company that has 20 people in it, and the boss knows her name and her kid's name and her favorite things, she feels truly valued. And I think it's a very, again, nuanced approach to this idea of making people believe and feel that they matter.
I think if we would have a word count, you spoke the most about people, 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 people. So often, and you wrote also on your LinkedIn profile, you have written there human. So you have this human centricity, and you often preach about it. So human centricity, hospitality is key. What do you see as the main challenges? Currently in the hospitality industries, and if you see any danger with AI or other technological advances, are there some perils, are there some concerns? What are the challenges in your opinion?
Sure, great question. So the pandemic has accelerated this idea of automation, obviously, right? Because we wanted no touch, no connection, far away. And this idea, for example, like remote check-in. I can check in on my phone. I'm a loyal Marriott customer. I have my app. I check it on my phone, and I could literally walk in the hotel, skip straight to the elevator, go up to my room, open my door with my phone, and have zero interaction with anyone. And it's sort of going the way of the banks, with the ATM machine. You don't really need to engage with anyone. And it's also going the way of airlines. I mean, if you remember airlines back in the day, they'd have 100 people at the counter. You had to check in and get your boarding pass. Now you literally just pass through and get straight to the gate. In the airlines case, though, they still have you captive because there's someone on the plane engaging with you, interacting with you, giving you that smile, giving you that warm feeling to make you feel at home and that you belong. But I think the danger with hotels is that if you completely automate everything and remove the humans out of it, which has been a really interesting dilemma because we needed to do it during the pandemic. First, for this idea of being distant, but then we needed it to save money. We needed it because it was hard to hire staff. So it kind of filled a gap for us. But the way I would think about technology in the hotel industry to avoid the danger of eliminating humans is this idea of use technology to remove the friction of the process. Like, why are you asking me for my credit card again? And why are you asking me for all this stuff? Do all that electronically. But at the end, give me the option to come engage with you, hire less but more quality people to engage with those who want to engage. Don't force me. Some hotels now do all self check in, there's no option, and they'll have one person far away that you'd have to call to come help you if you needed help. But ultimately, if it becomes a commodity, right, then it falls down to the bottom of Maslow's triangle, Maslow's hierarchy of need. It becomes shelter. I need a room to sleep. This place provides a room to sleep. Great, I got it. And if it becomes a commodity, the example I use for commodity is petrol, gas. Like when I go to buy gas for my car, I don't care what the brand is. I don't care about any of that stuff. It's two things I care about: price and location for convenience. And if that's how we pick hotels in the future, we're doomed. If we
Mhm.
become a commodity, we're doomed. And I think, again, this idea of feeling welcomed. Now, by the way, some may choose that. I don't want to talk to anyone, let me go on my way. But others want that interaction. They want to talk to someone because they, really at the core of this is sort of this other concept we can talk about, and I'll pause for a second to give you a chance to follow up. But this idea of emotional intelligence, and again, back to
Mhm.
my earlier comments, robots, for the time being, I'm not saying never, do not have emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is read your customer and give them exactly what they want.
And you have said to me prior, we had a short meeting, that the two best qualities for any person to have is common sense and emotional intelligence. Is that right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Almost in every industry, I
Mm.
think those two things matter so much. Common sense is very uncommon, as you will find out with if you don't see it already. And emotional intelligence, it's funny, especially in our industry. Historically, these big brands had a pre-prescribed way. This is how you say hello. This is what you have to
Mm.
do. You have
Mhm.
to use the guest's name 3 times during an interaction. And people don't necessarily all want that. Like it's like the
Mhm.
butler syndrome. I don't want a butler. I don't care if you give it to me for free. I don't want anything. Like I want high quality, but I don't want sort of this
Mm.
formality around it. So the idea of emotional intelligence is that when you show up in front of me, I shouldn't tell you what I think I should tell you, nor what my company tells me they think I should tell you. I should engage with you the way you want to be engaged with. And emotional intelligence is my ability to read your body language, your verbal cues, your nonverbal cues,
Mhm.
and give you what I want. It's funny, again, out of all these check-ins that I do, as you know, I do whatever,
Mhm.
a lot of them because I move hotels. Every time I get to the desk, it's a half an hour speech in many cases. I'm like, I am here at 11 p.m. I'm leaving at 7 a.m. Why are you telling me about the spa?
Mhm.
Just because someone said you must tell every guest about the spa. Don't don't talk to me. Don't tell me anything. You could see that I'm sort of moving quickly. Hand me my key and say, "Got you. On your way. Take care. Anything you need, just buzz me." So it's. I'm actually currently working with a dean of a hospitality school about the idea of can we specifically for hospitality create an emotional intelligence aptitude test.
Mhm.
Because, listen, the reality is, and I self deprecate here, this isn't rocket science. I said it at the beginning. You want to be a successful hotelier, make me feel good when I walk through your door, make me feel welcome. And check, done. The question is, how do you take it to that next level? If I could tell that you, Krissa, have the aptitude for emotional intelligence, I can teach you how to check someone in. I can teach you how to press the
Mhm.
buttons. And
Mhm.
everything being so automated is easy now, it's harder for me. I can hone in your skills, but you have zero interest in this idea of understanding and reading these cues. I'm going to waste a lot of time on you and never be able to get that out of you.
Mm. And about emotional intelligence, you're absolutely right. And I would throw in, perhaps under that or through that lens, the mental software we all come from, that is shaped by our culture and our upbringing. Right, as I asked you about your Arab heritage, and now we have a Greek and an Arab, going philosophical, but also down to the details. And so you have to read the people. All of us, we have our own mental software, and this is where cultures collide. And it does
Mhm.
take an emotionally intelligent person to understand that perhaps Finns would not like, or of course we are individuals, but we do have certain inbuilt
Sure.
software in us. So I'm glad that you said about the emotional intelligence and
And and
its
and by
importance.
And to that point, by the way, I believe strongly that the future of luxury at large is ultra customization. It's no longer about I want a whatever green M&M on my pillow. It truly is about ultra customization, and that
Mhm.
includes, by the way, don't talk to By the way, Uber. Interestingly enough, now if you buy Uber, whatever the Uber Deluxe, one of the options is do you want to be talkative or not talkative with the driver? Like
Mhm.
they're trying to, do you want the car cold or hot? Do you want music or no music?
Mhm.
So they're trying to customize to the individual. And I think we hotels have fallen behind. To us, we think customization is we ask you one time, what's your favorite snack? Pretzels. Okay, that's done. We'll give you pretzels next time you come. It's so much deeper than that. And I think our technology has allowed us to do so much more of that easily because otherwise it's hard work,
Mhm.
yet we fail miserably. I'll give you a great example. I'm
Mhm.
titanium elite on Marriott, one of their top statuses.
Mhm.
Stayed in many, many Marriotts. I like my room year round in any climate at 64 degrees Fahrenheit. You would think once ever in hundreds of stays, a person would go on their computer from their desk, find that fact out about me. I'm one of their most loyal customers, and literally push a button and drop the temperature in my room. And when
Mhm.
I arrive, send me a note that says, "We gotcha. We know you like your room cold. We took care of it for you. How
So
can you
you're a
stay?"
Finn. I just had to
Yeah,
check
exactly.
now. 34, 64 is 17 Celsius for
Yeah,
our European and other listeners. So 17 Celsius, 64 Fahrenheit. So it is a bit chilly. So that's your preference.
that's my
Uh,
preface.
great.
But the point is, think about how that. By the way, you do that for me every time. Back to your earlier question, I'm coming back to you. You know why? Because you cared enough to do something for me.
Mhm,
By the way, don't send me a big amenity just because the list said I'm VIP, because VIP again is a mathematical formula. Do something for me individually,
mhm.
and that's how you build loyalty.
Stalk
And
me on
people mistake
Facebook and find
that.
what I like.
Please do.
Do
It's
your
not that hard.
research.
Well, remember though, if I am part of a loyalty program, that's what they call these
Mm,
loyalty programs, you should know about me. But the
absolutely.
reality is, sadly, there's no loyalty. Those are called
Mm,
bribery programs. I
mm,
stay in your hotel, you give me points.
mm,
That's what people confuse those two words, bribery and loyalty. You don't buy my loyalty, you earn my loyalty. And the way you
mm.
earn my loyalty is by treating me like I matter.
Mm. We spoke, Bashar, earlier about the challenges of technology, and now you touched upon the ultra customization. What trends you see emerging and playing a vital role that do and will shape the future of hotels, or the hotels of tomorrow? So the challenges we have addressed, you touched upon what you think is important. Are there any other trends that you see are they up and coming, or they're still here, but you predict in the future they will be having a great impact?
Great question. Clearly, all the things we've talked about for the last decade, good art, good coffee, sustainability, inclusivity, like all these things have truly now become table stakes. You can no longer brag about being sustainable. Any restaurant who says we're farm to table, I'm like, why are you telling me that? Obviously, you better be farm to table, otherwise, why are you in business anymore? So, whatever were aspirational things, exciting things that we enjoyed seeing have now become expectations. And truth be told, we as an industry spoil our customers because we continue to give them things that become an expectation, and the bar gets higher and higher in terms of how do we surprise and delight them, how do we do more for them, what are the trends in the future that are going to attract them to us. And when you've done so much, it becomes two part. One, you run out of ideas, and then you start going towards the shock and awe, I call it, where you do things that don't really matter, they're just shocking and people enjoy them, or are offended by them or really enjoy them for a minute, so they become sort of memorable. But beyond that, and again, I want to be a broken record on purpose here. You think about the 80s and 90s, maybe in 2000s. I love eating out, and I'm happy to go to a fancy three Michelin star back in the day and sit there for 4 hours and have 17 courses and 22 pieces of silverware and 22 glasses. That's not what people want anymore. What people want now, they realize how valuable time is. Don't waste my
Mhm,
time, number one. Do not waste my time. I would much rather go to a neighborhood brasserie, pay the same price, by the way, and have incredibly amazing food, high quality, obviously farm to table, but engage in an experience. Have the chef come out and tell me how they prepared it and why. And sort of, it's almost more theatrics, but with
mm,
good substance underneath.
mm,
And I think what the trends I'm seeing, certainly, that those who are successful are really paying attention to this idea of, let's make sure we're conscious of people time. Like the best service, is invisible service. Be there when I want you to be and don't when I don't. And that's a really, really fine balance. Figuring out how to give you the ultra high quality service and ingredients you want, but being essentially invisible about it, only there when you need me. So I think, again, this idea of really honing in these experiences, understanding how to create the experiences. And by the way, you don't create an experience by having fabulous art. You create an experience by having fabulous art that has a reason to be there, that is integral to the story you're trying to tell, and a way for me to follow that narrative. We had a hotel, by the way, that had an amazing collection of art. We had docents on call. You could actually schedule an appointment and have a docent walk you through the art of the hotel. That to me is an experience. Hanging a bunch of art on the wall with a card underneath, that's not an experience. So
Mm-hmm.
really honing in the experiences and going deeper and deeper with them and customizing them to the customer, back to ultra customization. For those who want them, sure. Don't force everyone to go on an art tour of your hotel because I may not care and not want it. So that wouldn't be accretive for me. And the bar is really high, like I said, and it's becoming harder and harder to try to appease. But I think those who stand out in the crowd and have a truly have something to say, have something meaningful to say, those are the ones that people are paying attention to. Clearly, the sustainability is becoming more and more relevant and deeper. We used to sort of greenwash everything. We recycle. Great. You better recycle. I can't tell you how shocked I am when I go to places that don't recycle. So it's almost
Mm-hmm.
like an expectation. But how do you go beyond that and really be sensitive and sincere and authentic? I honestly think if I were to put it in one word, authenticity, which is one of the most overused words I think now. But if you're authentic in everything you do and intentional and thoughtful, that is how I see the hotels of tomorrow getting shaped. Now, of course, using technology better. We talked a lot about AI and how that could be utilized in the industry to really better predict what it. Instead of me stalking you on Facebook, there's an easier way now for me to find out more about you and do something about it.
Mm. Uh, I would listen to you for hours and hours.
Don't.
So I have a last question for you. You currently enjoy the past years or decades. You enjoy a quite high status. You're quite well known. You've traveled your miles. How many countries you traveled to? How many? You said 230 hotels.
Hotels.
Right. But you have started from humble beginnings. You started as you wrote somewhere. You started from frying an egg. Is it literally to
Literally.
negotiating perhaps multi-million-dollar deals?
Mhm.
Or So what I would like to ask you to close this nice interview and inspiring discussion, what are the lessons you have learned along the way that have shaped you as a hospitality professional, the hospitality professional you are today? And also, if you could give some advice to top executives, but also to the people at all levels in the hospitality industry, what is important for them to know? If you could, in a nutshell, summarize, we talked about common sense, emotional intelligence, we talked about authenticity. Is it some other lessons that you've learned in your 30 plus
Sure.
years of career for
Sure.
our viewers and
So
listeners?
great. So hospitality to me truly is one of those bugs because as an industry, it's not the greatest industry, right? Like it's terrible. We're open when everyone else is closed, 24/7, 365. Every holiday we're open and you're
Mm,
working. So it's not exactly the best schedule for lifestyle, nor is it the best money. So I truly believe that if you don't have a passion about the industry, if you don't have a passion, I sort of say, by the way, my job description is I'm the host of the soiree. There's a party every day and I'm hosting the party to make sure everyone in the party feels good, has a good time, and want to come back again. But if you don't have that innate desire in you, this idea of being a host, then it's not for you. Of course, you can be in finance and not sort of engage with the front line. But fundamentally, if you don't catch that bug, and you don't feel it's for you, don't waste your time. Now, clearly, ultimately, you can get to high places in the industry and do a lot with it. But I think, say from the beginning, if you don't feel that it's truly your passion, but that almost applies to anything. If I sort of tell everyone, if it doesn't set your soul on fire, it's not worth the burn. Like, don't waste your time, go do something else. So, passion number one, and this industry, to me, although not complicated, I think paying your dues and really working in a hotel on the ground level, getting your hands dirty is so helpful. And it's been so helpful for me across my career because you just have a deeper understanding and a better understanding of what it takes to pull this incredible party together. I mean, I literally have cleaned toilets, I've cooked food, I've done all of it. And not for a day, just sort of to check the box. I actually did it. And I think it shaped who I am. It made me a better leader at the end of the day because I have a true appreciation for how it goes. So, passion number one, don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. And even if you don't have to, find a way to do it because I think it makes you a much better person. And by the way, all the things I described for guests, emotional intelligence, ultra customization, recognizing them as humans and individuals, pushing the transcendence and self actualization button, equally as important to do with your teammates and your employees, not just your guests. So the people talk about external customers and internal customers. Your internal customers, without them, you'll never get it right for external customers. So you truly have to treat them equally and think about them exactly the same way. They have feelings. They want to know they matter. They don't want to think they're employee number 521. They want to know that they're Chrisa and she matters individually.
I have so many questions. I want to ask you now about leadership and leading this young generation of employees in the hospitality and then the new generation of travelers. Maybe some short insight because I would like to hear your thoughts. So, leading and welcoming as customers new generations of travelers or different generation of travelers with different needs. And then, how about from the leadership perspective? Leading such teams that consist of people of a different generation, right? Do you
As
see
you can
any
tell, it's
challenges there
hard
and
for
opportunities?
it's hard for me to give a short answer. So there is no short answer. I
We
wish it
need
was that
another
easy.
episode of Travel
I know,
Insight.
I know. I would say, look, fundamentally, it really again is all simple. Treat people across generations because you can't say for the last 10 years I've done it this way and it's worked. You really have to be sensitive. Back to the idea of emotional intelligence and reading your audience. You have to
Mm,
read your employees even generationally. And again, I have a much longer answer to this that we practice within my company. But we used to, as an industry, say employees and paint them in one big broad paintbrush. Well, that doesn't work anymore
mm,
because they
mm,
all have different hopes, different dreams, different aspirations, different needs. So as you start distilling it down, and by the way, it's impossible to give every single employee or teammate what they
mm,
want.
mm,
So we sort of tried to categorize them in three different categories, right? So the career person, the person who just wants an honest day's paycheck, they don't care about career, they want upward mobility. And there's sort of the transient, right? The aspiring actress, the aspiring DJ. The needs of those groups are completely different. And you can easily attend to them. It's not like you have to have three separate companies within one company. You can easily attend to them. So again, take the time to know your teammate and know your customer equally, right? And do something about the information you find out. Nothing bothers me more than when someone says, "Have you stayed with us before?" As I'm checking in. Yes.
mhm,
Silence. Nothing.
mm,
Like I've stayed with you before equals you should know me
mhm,
equals what are you doing about it? So
mm. Mm. And you spoke about companies. Tell us briefly about the companies you're associated with, this assembly and practice hospitality. How do you add value in the industry with the work that you do? How do you shape the hotels of tomorrow?
so we'll start with Practice Hospitality. Practice Hospitality is a hotel management company. And hotel management essentially is a commodity. There's lots of great hotel management companies out there.
Hmm.
And we sort of say that our thing is we're small intentionally and we want to make sure we have this because remember again this idea of individualization and emotional intelligence really goes in every direction. I have to have that skill with my owners that I may be working for managing hotels. So our premise was when and for anyone who's built a hotel or was involved in the process of creating a hotel, whether new or renovation or whatever, it is your baby. You literally lose sleep over it. You spend nights and days and you spend your money and you spend your effort on creating this beautiful thing that is your baby. And then at the end, you go and you give it to someone to manage. Who wants to give their
Mm,
baby to someone to manage? So the way we describe it is look, you give us your baby. We are going to nurture your baby, love your baby, make sure that it's going to be the best it can be, not just manage. Manage is such a passive word to me that is not warm, that is not comforting. So our premise is look, we have sort of three angles to what we do. It's really people first, obviously. That's our the core of what we do. Number two is this idea of alchemy. And people don't understand what alchemy is. And alchemy, unfortunately, isn't something you can buy. It's only something you create from experience. And it's 20,000 details. It's not one or two things to make a place that otherwise is like many stand out and be special. And it's all the details that you do, including, by the way, how you treat your employees, that creates alchemy ultimately. And then ultimately, optimization is really doing just what's right for your asset, not a pre prescribed, here's our list, take it or leave it, nor trying to paint your asset with a broad paintbrush. It's really looking at it specifically and holistically. So that's Practice Hospitality. This assembly does more of the real estate investment, real estate acquisitions, and I use it as a vehicle to tinker with things that excite me, whether they're a product or a technology or something like that. So it's almost like a venture company. But at the core of people say, what do you do? I say, I'm a hotel guy. Like that's really it. Whatever that means broadly, I love hotels and that's what I do.
Great. Thank you, Bashar Wali, for talking to me here at Travel Insights on traveldailynews.com. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and listening. I'll wish you a nice morning there
Thank you.
in Portland, Oregon, right?
Indeed. Yep. Yep.
So, hopefully, you have a productive morning ahead. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Tune in next Wednesday as well to watch interesting topics being analyzed by leading experts. And if you have your own unique insights to share, here is an email. You can reach me at press@traveldailynews.com or my colleagues there. So, thank you for watching us, and hopefully, you got some inspiring ideas. I will talk to you next Wednesday. Bye for now.